Kate, you said if the number was more from government, that would be concerning. How do you match that up when 1 million of it came from the private sector, 350,000 came from the federal government, mostly from federal government?
Yeah, I think this is the porridge is the right temperature kind of number, Becky, where, you have decent gains in the private sector, maybe a little additional boost from census hiring and government hiring. But you're not getting something that's so overheated that people are going to worry about the snapback when the weather is colder and additional shutdowns, especially if people have to sort of hunker down inside. And yet nothing that was too weak that suggested that, private enterprise was really struggling in a way that wasn't present in some of the other high frequency data in August. So I think this number is just going to be satisfying. But the point I was making before is we really need to think about how companies are going to right size their labor force. They're thinking about the efficiency of their current workforce right now, and whether or not they have the right skill set for an evolving economy. Over coming quarters, I expect we're going to see more companies be opportunistic about shifting both their workforce and perhaps downsizing in order to protect their margins. That's going to be more important from the structural side for equity investors.
I wanted to point that out. When you say right-sizing, you mean downsizing, right?
Yeah, right-sizing, but it's also around specific parts of their business. Like you may see increases in one part of their business in terms of hiring and reductions in other as they kind of get a sense for where their longer-term demand and activity will be.
Hey, Jason, let's run through some of these numbers. The market.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I just want to, real quickly, and I'm sure Jason's going to want these numbers before he talks. The number of unemployed fell by 2.78 million. That's a big decline. Meanwhile, the civilian labor force actually increased. So it's up by almost 1 million. So more people came into the workforce. Many of the unemployed found jobs. It's funny, looking at the household side of this survey, it looks a lot stronger than the establishment side of the survey. Establishment side, just 1 million. But the household side shows a lot more people came back to the workforce, and a lot of them found jobs. So I think that's a good news story in this report.
Jason, how would you kind of characterize that? How would you tackle that?
Let me throw one more number into the mix. The number of people on temporary layoff, which is also from the household survey, fell by 3.1 million. So there's now, I think, about 6 million people still on temporary layoff. It had peaked at, I think, 18 million. So in rough terms, 3 million jobs created this month, according to the household survey. All of those jobs were people returning from temporary layoff. That's good news. That's the healing. That's the reopening. 8.4 is certainly a lot lower than I thought we would get the unemployment rate by the summer, lower even than I thought it would be at the end of the year. But we're still not seeing a lot of job creation for people outside of those being called back to their jobs. There's still 6 million people on temporary layoff and there's still, I think, several million people who have withdrawn from the labor force. So there's a lot more work that this economy still needs to do, and that work is going to get harder.